Hello, so you are a beginning player in SCUM who is looking to do their first base raid. Well, in this video I'm going to provide you with all the beginner raiding information that you need to know for your first raid in SCUM. Please note, however, that at the time of making this video, SCUM is still in early access, so some of the information may change. When it comes to raiding in SCUM, there are a lot of different factors that impact both the difficulty of the raid and the success of the raid. But without going too deep into all the different factors of raiding, the main things that you need to know are the two main ways to perform a raid, which are with explosives or by lockpicking. The majority of raids will require a little bit of both for the raid to be successful. Lockpicking will be utilized to open doors, vehicles, chests, and all other forms of storage, whereas explosives are mainly used for breaking down base elements and giving you access to different parts of a base. Now, depending on the complexity of the base you are raiding, will determine the time and materials needed to invest into the raid for it to be successful. Bases can drastically range from very easy to very difficult to raid, but it can also depend on your skill level and your experience when it comes to raiding. To keep things simple for this video, I will just be providing the absolute basics that you need to know, but a lot of base raiding knowledge comes with experience over time, so keep that in mind when conducting your first few raids in SCUM. To get us started, we will discuss the basics of lockpicking. To be able to lockpick, you will need to have at minimum a screwdriver, lockpick, and a few fame points. Currently in SCUM, there are two different types of screwdrivers. The main difference between the two different screwdriver types is the amount of uses each one has. The red screwdriver has a maximum of 3 uses, whereas the black screwdriver have a maximum of 40 uses. Another thing to note about the different screwdriver types is the spawn rarity. Red screwdrivers are a more common spawn item than black screwdrivers around the island, so your odds of finding a red screwdriver are much higher. Along with screwdrivers, there are a few different variations of lockpicks. Currently in SCUM, there are 3 different types of lockpicks, which are the improvised lockpicks, the normal lockpicks, and the advanced lockpicks. Each lockpick has a set of unique characteristics. Starting with the improvised lockpicks, this is the most basic version of a lockpick that can be crafted from either a bobby pin or a safety pin. The improvised lockpick only has one use, and it is the easiest lockpick to break, but is the most common one to obtain. The normal lockpick has a maximum of 4 uses and is more durable than the improvised lockpick, which will make it easier to try to open a lock. Normal lockpicks are less common, however, so they can be more difficult to find across the island. Lastly, the advanced lockpick, which has a maximum of 6 uses, is the most durable of the lockpicks. The advanced lockpick is the best lockpick to use due to its increased durability, but it is a very rare item to find, so it can be very difficult to find them on the island. Another important thing you need to be able to lockpick is fame points. The amount of fame points you have can be checked in the inventory menu at the top right. Fame points can be obtained by doing almost anything on the island, such as quest, looting, killing puppets or players, crafting items, and much more. When lockpicking, you will use these items up as you go, so you will need to keep that in mind and prepare accordingly. For each try at lockpicking, you will use up at least 1 use of a screwdriver, 1 use of a lockpick, and a little bit of fame points. Once you have all the items required to lockpick, you can now attempt to open your first locks. To be able to lockpick, walk up to the item that you're attempting to open and press F to begin. This will open a lockpicking minigame where you have to utilize a combination of the F key and mouse movement to find what's called the sweet spot, which will open the lock. The best method to use is what is known as the feathering method, where you tap the F key while moving the lockpick with your mouse. As you are doing this, you will notice that there is an area of the lock that will allow the lock to start rotating. Your goal is to get the lockpick in the center of the sweet spot so the lock will open. The sweet spot will be in a random location with each attempt and will have a specific range where it will allow the lock to rotate. Depending on the lock will depend on the range at which the sweet spot allows. The lock difficulties range from iron being the easiest, silver being in the middle, and gold being the most difficult. Another major factor that impacts lockpicking is your character's lockpicking skill. If your character has low lockpicking skill, it will be a lot more difficult for you to lockpick than it will be with a character with high lockpicking skill. Other things that can impact lockpicking are gloves. Some doors that you will encounter will have what is called lock protection attached to them, which will damage the player lockpicking with each failed lockpicking attempt. The way you can counter lock protection is by using rubber gloves or medical gloves. Gloves will impact the difficulty of lockpicking though, with it making it easier to break the lockpick. Medical gloves are the best but have a minimal durability, whereas rubber gloves make it much more difficult but have a lot more durability. Another thing you will encounter while lockpicking is dial locks. Now, dial locks do not require the use of any lockpicking items, but they do require the use of fame points. To open dial locks, you must correctly guess the combination of the lock by checking each individual combination. With the current version of dial locks in SCUM, there are 999 different combinations that you possibly need to check to find the correct one. Dial locks are relatively easy to open, but can take a lot of time depending on how lucky you are. When it comes to utilizing explosives for base raiding, there are a couple factors you need to consider, which are the type of explosive you are using and the level of base element you are trying to destroy. Currently in SCUM, you are able to raid with 5 different types of explosives, which are pipe bombs, grenades, TNT, C4, RPGs, or AT4s. Now, each different explosive does a specific amount of damage to base building elements. So on the screen now, I will display charts showing the damage dealt by each different explosive on each different level of base building element. Another important factor you need to know is how to acquire each different type of explosive. To acquire pipe bombs, they must be crafted utilizing various parts, but you can find the crafting recipe in the crafting menu. For grenades, these can be found at military POIs, inside bunkers, inside kill boxes, and in airdrops. For TNT, these can be found in the coal mine, gravel quarries, and even sometimes at military POIs and bunkers. For C4, these require crafting utilizing various parts. To be able to craft C4, you need to acquire 4 different C4 parts, which are the keypad, timer, detonator, and pack C4. To find these parts, there are a few different methods. To find keypads and detonators, you can defuse suicide puppets, also known as giggler puppets. For the timer and packed, you must complete kill boxes and unlock the gold lock room inside the kill box to acquire these parts. Another way you can obtain these parts is by killing mechs and searching their remains, but they will randomly spawn these different parts, so you are not sure which one you will get until you search the mech. Once you have acquired all 4 C4 parts and a few of the other items needed for the crafting recipe, you will have the ability to craft a complete C4, which then can be utilized to raid. For RPGs and AT4s, these can be found in military POIs, but mainly in bunkers. The most common place to find these inside bunkers are the Brenner armories inside the abandoned bunkers. When using explosives to raid, you will need to attach the explosive to the base element you are planning on destroying, or if using a RPG or AT4, you will have to shoot them at that specific base element. When attaching explosives to base elements, you have the ability to attach multiple so that way they can all blow up at the same time, which will destroy the base element faster. To attach the explosives to the base element, you need to have the explosive in your character's hand and then press F on the base element to place the explosive. If you are utilizing either pipe bombs or TNT, you will need an igniter to light the fuse, but if you're utilizing grenades or C4, you will need to select the pull pin or arm options by holding F on the explosive. Once the explosive is armed, you need to get to a safe distance or a spot hidden from the explosion. When raiding with grenades, you have a very short time window to get away before the explosion will occur, but with other types of explosives, you have some extra time to get to a safe location. Another factor you will encounter while conducting a base raid is base defenses. What I am referring to are traps, mines, and turrets. These things will commonly be used by the majority of base owners to try to defend their loot, so you will eventually encounter these items while raiding, but there are a few different things you can do to avoid or defeat them. Starting with traps, there are a few different types of traps players can use to defend their base, but the most common ones that you will see are nail traps and stake pit traps. Both of these can be destroyed by using explosives, shooting them, or even destroying them using a flamethrower. The stake pit traps also have the option to disarm them with wire cutters if you are able to get close enough to them. With nail traps, they can also be broken by utilizing an axe by walking up to the nail trap, holding F and selecting destroy with the axe in your hand. These traps can be hidden in hard to see locations or even under some items such as chests, so make sure to look carefully at your surroundings as you are entering a base so you do not get killed by one of these. When it comes to mines, these can easily be avoided by using a few different methods such as explosives, shooting them, defusing them, or even using a flamethrower. Now, the most common and easiest methods to get rid of mines is using explosives or shooting the mine even if it is buried. But if you would like to take the more stealthy approach, you can walk up to the mine with wire cutters and disarm the mine, which will allow you to take the mine and reuse it later. Now, for base building turrets, these can be a little bit more tricky since they can attack you from a further distance than the other base defense items. Turrets have two main ways to defeat them, which are destroying them or deactivating them. To destroy a base building turret, you can either use explosives or shoot the turret until it breaks. Here is a quick chart to show you some of the various quantities of items needed to destroy the turret. The other ways to defeat base building turrets is to deactivate them utilizing EMP grenades. If an EMP grenade is thrown near the turret, it will temporarily deactivate the turret to give you a small time window to get past it or destroy it. Base building turrets also have some blind spots that you can take advantage of to avoid them seeing you, but I will not be going into the detail of that in this video. There are a lot of other important things to know when it comes to raiding, but here are a few just to help you grow your raiding knowledge. When lockpicking, you may encounter what is called a BCU lock, which will prevent you from lockpicking the door or the item unless you have the base owner's BCU chip in your inventory. EMP grenades can be used to temporarily disable lock protection or BCU locks on doors and can also be used to disable any electronic device such as generators in the area. When lockpicking with wet gloves, you will still get damaged by the lock protection, so make sure that your gloves are dry when you are lockpicking a door on a base. If you have a squad mate or a few squad mates raiding with you, you can reach certain locations by using what is called the player boosting method by jumping on each player's head while they are crouched to try to reach a higher location. You can also use things such as vehicles, wheelbarrows, wardrobes, and a few other base building items to help you reach certain locations. Planes can also be used to give you the ability to parachute or hot drop your squad mates on top of a base as well. You are unable to place explosives on base doors, but they can be placed on base building door frames, which will allow you to destroy the door so you do not have to lockpick it. But you can destroy doors as well with RPGs or AT4s by just shooting the door itself. When it comes to my recommendations, I would say the main thing you need to do is just go out there and perform your first few base raids. Now yes, there is a lot to base raiding in SCUM, but the majority of it you will learn with time and experience, so don't be afraid to perform your first few raids even if they don't go well. Some of my other recommendations are spend some time scouting the base you're wanting to raid to really get to know the layout as best as you can before starting the raid. Also, with your first few raids, do what is called snowballing, where you start with an easier raid and work your way up to more difficult raids. But just stay patient and persistent, and before you know it, you will become a raiding expert and start competing with the veteran and most experienced players in SCUM. Well, I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button so YouTube knows to share this video with other SCUM players like yourself. But if you would like to see more weekly SCUM content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and for other beginner guide videos, click the card above. But like always guys, do good, do have fun, and do be kind. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.